is a moderate level, not too collectivistic and not too individualistic, and which is actually very good, I think, for for innovation, for entrepreneurship, because as I mentioned before, you need to work in a team. You need to have it to be able to conform to the team, and at the same time, because power distance is low, you feel free to express your unique ideas in the team. So in organizations, this is another factor, the cultural values in the organization, and whether they let these people with the cognitive style of creative thinking, creative cognitive style, to express their ideas. So if there is a high power distance in the organization, they will not. If there is not such a high power distance, then they will, and then we will be able to identify them.
Next question, please. Just identify yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Fernando Mortara. I'm an environmental engineer. Sorry I was a bit late, but I'm glad I could catch up at least for the last 40 minutes. But I was wondering if these skills and mindsets that you said are the best ones for the team innovation, these could be taught, improved in each individual of the team, or you must set it up before and get together the team?
Yeah, okay, this is a good question. The answer is both. Both are possible. I did a study where I compared cognitive styles in different countries. In China, in the US, in Israel, also in Spain. And what I found out was very interesting. The ability to be creative is similar across cultures. You cannot say that Israelis have the potential to be creative more than Chinese. At the individual level, when you administer a creative ability test, I'm sure that if I administer it here in Brazil, we will not find differences from Israel, for example, which is considered to be highly innovative. But what happens is that the culture, what influence here is the culture, because if you are a creative person, you will not express your creativity if the culture doesn't let you express it. If they say you should conform, don't come with your crazy ideas, you should not deviate from the norm, then you will not have the opportunity to express your creativity. Whereas if the culture is low power distance, low uncertainty avoidance, then, and there is another characteristic, cultural characteristic, which is loose, tight cultures. Some cultures are loose, namely there is a high variance in the culture, and the culture tolerates deviation. And there are some cultures that are very tight, no deviation from the norm. So in loose cultures, you will have more opportunity to express your own, to deviate from the norm, and to come up with something new. So why did I say both? Because on the one hand, you have the potential to be to express your creativity, but on the other hand, if the culture doesn't allow it to do it so much, then maybe it's better to from the beginning to choose people who, even if the culture doesn't allow them, will express their creative ideas because of their creativity, and make sure that they are part of your team. So for example, for innovative team in organizations, I recommend to select the people from the beginning. Make sure that you select also creative people to this particular project. And unfortunately, when you ask human resource management whether this is one of the criteria to admit new employees, they say no. Why? Because they need this. First of all, they need the skill. The priority is, for example, today is to have data analysts. So if you are data analyst and there is a scarcity of data analysts, they're going to take you even if you are, and they don't care if you are creative or not. They need your skill as a data analyst. But if there are enough data analysts, let's say, then they can also look into the potential to be creative.
Thank you. Next question, please. Professor Campino. Professor Campino, just for identification.
Health. Now can apply this in the area of health.
Oh, and what?
Physicians, it seems to me, they tend to think they know everything, so they don't have just conformist people in their team, not creative. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a very good question, because on the one hand, physicians, they have the guidelines. They have to, like if I come as a patient and I have a problem and they want to know what kind of medicine to give me, they cannot take the risk to try out something, because I may die by the time I take it. They have to follow the guidelines that are based on experience that was accumulated over many years about the particular disease. But today, there are many ways to introduce innovation into medicine. First of all, medical device. Medical device really revolutionized the field. In operation room, in operation rooms, for example, diabetic patients, they don't need to inject every day. They have other technology that enables them to control. So there is a lot of medical device innovation today compared to years before. And also the data, the big data analytics is going to also to revolutionize how doctors work with their patients. Because one doctor cannot actually take into consideration all the problems that the patient has. And sometimes there is a conflict between two medicines. And you may not know it because you don't have so many patients who have the same multiple problems. So, but today, because there are records of millions of people all over the world, you can start doing data analysis, big data analysis, and identify and produce new protocols for the doctors so that they don't have to decide only about the temperature or whatever. They have many, many indicators that they can consider now in order to decide how to treat the patient. By the way, this is the field of research of my daughter. She's in medical informatics, so that's what she does as a researcher.
We are developing here.
Good, just for the purpose of.
We are developing here in USP with the company I work for and Unica, a research about, and one of the outcomes of the research is a framework based on a phase that an R&D project have to pass through the development of an innovation. And I was wondering if the cultural values required to reach a better outcome of the project in each of the phases, and the profile of the people involved could be different in any kind in every phase. So we have the discovery phase, and that's more related to creativity, to the formulation, to the planning of the project. We have the second phase that is related to proofs of concept, to MVPs, to pilots, trying to fit the idea into a project. And the third one is more related to perfecting the outcome of the project that will reach the customer by then. And I understand that for the third phase, the attentive to detail profile must be necessary for yes. And I was just wondering if is there any kind of research trying to fit the cultural values and the profiles to the phases of innovation?
Yeah, I only get very good questions here. Yeah, this is a very good question. I think there are, but very few research about it. But there is a research on shared leadership, it's called. Namely, at different phases of the project, different people should take the lead because they have the relevant skills and knowledge for this phase. So it's not that you have to get rid of the attentive people at the beginning and to get rid of the creative people at the end. But the team should be able to identify the strengths of each member and when each one of these strengths becomes relevant. By the way, it's called, there is a research about it, line of research that is called transactive memory system. Transactive memory system is the memory system of the team that they know whom to approach for each problem. So there is a diversity in the team, and if you recognize the diversity and you don't expect everybody to be like you, and you recognize the strengths, the different strengths, and you know that each strength has a relevance for one part of the project, at one time of the project, one phase. So this is very important. So for example, even if you use cognitive styles, but you can use other skills and characteristics, you should, what I do usually when I assess the cognitive styles, I ask the team members to share their strengths. Of the three cognitive styles, which is my strength? So if they share it, they know the shared strengths of it. There is a shared strength recognition of who is strong in what. And they can use these strengths at different phases of the performance of the project.
Time for one question more. So may I pose a question?
Sure.
It's not really a question, it's a chutzpah comment. Chutzpah is a kind of nasty comment, which is the following. Thank you very much for your presentation, obviously, but I was kind of negatively struck by the term conformist.
Yeah, no.
Because conformist, if you look, I opened my Professor Google, and he told me that the synonym for conformist is yes man. And what you described is more somebody active and trying to harmonize. So it has to be some verb and not some basic condition. So I would say mediator would be maybe a better word, or what, if you can elaborate a second about this term conformist.
I actually agree with you. I perfectly agree with you. The connotation of conformism is very negative. But within the cognitive style, the typology is an existing typology that I used. So I had to take the term the way it was. But therefore, I add the explanation of what it means in this context to be conformist. To be conformist is to know, what does it mean that you conform? You have to know what is acceptable in the organization. I can give you one nice example. Actually, I gave a sample to Ricardo, so I can show you. We have a company in the healthcare called Given Imaging. What this company does, it developed pill camera.
You can show it.
A camera that you swallow, and it diagnoses the internal part of the body in places where X-ray cannot tell there. They cannot diagnose. So there is no need to operate a person just to do the diagnosis. And why I give it as an example, because this company, this idea of a pill camera came up to the mind of an engineer who worked in one of the R&D defense companies, and he was an expert on the optical part of the missile. But then his neighbor was a doctor, a surgeon, and the neighbor complained to him that sometimes you need to operate people for nothing because he just needs to diagnose. He doesn't know what the problem is. And whether there is another way to do it, to do the diagnosis. So this engineer who had the capability came up with this idea, why not to swallow a camera and to diagnose the internal part. So he worked in a defense company, in the missile division. So he came up with the idea to his boss, but the boss said, our strategy is for defense purposes, not for health. So we allow you to take off some time and go and develop it and open up a new startup. And actually the defense company supported him, invested in this company, gave him some funding to do it. So, so why did I tell? Okay. So there is, so what is the conformism? You cannot come up with this crazy idea of developing a field camera in a defense company. You need to know the environment, whether it fits or it doesn't fit in. In that sense, people who have this understanding that it's going, whether it's going to fit in or it doesn't fit in, they know the constraints of the situation and whether they can promote the idea there or they have to back out. So it's the conformism in the positive aspect of it, of knowing what is going to be agreed upon here and what is not. And as I mentioned to you, product development teams that negotiate with the boss with the decision makers during the process of development, and they know what is going to be acceptable and what is not going to be acceptable, are more successful at the end compared to teams that have the idea, they are very confident about their idea, and they go all the way without even finding out whether it's going to be supported or not. So the minimum viable product actually is a good example of testing it with your customers, see if the customers is going to accept it, and in that sense you need to conform to the customer needs.
Okay, so thank you.
I think there is one more question.
One last question, yes, please. Just identify yourself, please.
My name is Barbara. I study here and I have already graduated my doctorate degree. I just come up with a commentary because you said that there is a fear that there is this company that developed medical devices using their competencies. In my dissertation, I also had a similar case for me, but it's not a large company, it's a small firm that started with medical and ophthalmic devices, but the main specialty of this firm is laser. So they are focused on physics and optics. And then they started the process of developing some R&D, developing some equipment for defense and army. So I just remembered this case. They use the same resource base. They are technology based. They have, I don't know if it's similar, but it's a close case of what you said.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Two announcements. First, Ricardo is from the Technion Brazilian Society, is circulating the pill can. Please don't swallow it, because there's only one and he has to show it next week in Brasilia at some event. So two announcements. The first one is that after, really three announcements, is that after we finish here, we have in the next room, we have some, in Portuguese it's called meter sandwich. It means so we can continue talking to Professor Erez and among ourselves. It's just very light, but just to have a chance to leave the room and eat something and bring something and continue the conversation. Second, next week at the same time at this place we'll have a seminar with a gentleman from the National Development Bank about BNDES. As you know, BNDES Garage. BNDES is the largest supporter of startups in Brazil in terms of money. Lots of funds, startups for environment, and this and that. So he is coming to tell us about the whole picture of BNDES in this area of new entrepreneurship, empreendedorismo inovador, but specifically about this initiative called BNDES Garage. So next week, 11:30 at this place, you are cordially invited. And third, we are, through Carlos, for some reason couldn't come, our doctoral student, we are having a three-country study on how accelerated companies benefit from accelerators, how it is in Brazil, in Israel, and in China. And Professor Erez is very active, and this week is here. Next week she is in China, Beijing, and you go from here to Rio. You go to, Professor Erez comes from Tel Aviv to São Paulo, then she goes to China. It's very easy. So. So anyhow, Professor Erez, Miriam, thank you so much for coming, for sharing your profound knowledge with us about a very relevant term. I think in Brazil we had many years where you had to, let's say, try to promote the idea of innovation, etc., etc. I think nowadays innovation became kind of a commodity. Everybody accepts, everybody thinks it's very nice. And the question is more how to do it in an effective way, not to become kind of a buzzword. So I think you made a very relevant contribution for the university on behalf of our Center for Technology, Policy and Management, which merges or joins people from the business school, both management and economics and industrial engineering here in São Carlos and Ribeirão Preto. Thank you so much. We have just a little sign for you that you were with us here. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And please, you are invited here cordially to continue the conversation informally. Thank you, Walter, for making the trip. Obrigado, Walter.
É uma inovação como você e ela desenvolvia para a área médica.
Você acha que então não vai ser renovado, não? Então, pelas pessoas que entendem, eu coloquei.
Essa trajetória histórica da empresa
Vai deixar que eu vou lá.